Hello and welcome to TVB News. U.S. President Joe Biden, fresh from Monday's surprise visit to Kyiv, is in Poland hoping to strengthen European support for Ukraine ahead of the first anniversary of Russia's invasion. The visit was aimed at showing Russia that NATO remains united, as Moscow is reportedly on the verge of a major offensive in Ukraine's eastern regions. Russia invaded Ukraine on February 24th last year, with the conflict costing both sides tens of thousands of lives and looking no closer to a peaceful resolution. Nazvi Karim reports.
A humble railroad train, the kind used by thousands of Ukrainians to flee the war, was the mode of transport for U.S. President Joe Biden to and from Kyiv during his unannounced whirlwind and symbolic visit on Monday to the Ukrainian capital, almost 1 year after Russia's invasion. 10 hours each way, Biden was seen returning to the Polish border town of Przemysl, from where he had started his rail journey to Kyiv. He then took Air Force One to Warsaw. Biden was today scheduled to meet Polish President Andrzej Duda and deliver an address in which he would reaffirm American and European commitment to defending Ukraine. The White House said Russia was informed of Biden's visit hours before he left Washington to ensure there were no attacks on the Ukrainian capital. While in Kyiv, Biden and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky visited St. Michael's Cathedral, where they spoke with priests. Afterwards, amid the sound of air raid sirens, they laid wreaths and observed a moment of silence at the Wall of Remembrance, honoring Ukrainian soldiers killed since 2014, when Russia annexed the Crimean Peninsula.
1 year later, Kyiv stands, and Ukraine stands. Democracy stands. The Americans stand with you, and the world stands with you. Putin thought Ukraine was weak, and the West was divided. He was counting on the inability to keep NATO united. I don't think he's thinking that right now.
In Poland, Biden will hold talks with the leaders of the Bucharest Nine, representing NATO nations on the eastern flank of the military alliance. Poland is one of the key European countries supporting Ukraine. Around 1.5 million Ukrainian refugees have fled the war to Poland, and Warsaw has given Kyiv several $1 billion worth of support. In his address to the nation, Zelensky thanked Biden for visiting Kyiv, which came 2 months after the Ukrainian leader made a surprise trip to Washington. Biden had announced an additional $500 million in military assistance on top of the more than $50 billion already provided. Zelensky said the talks also touched on long-range weapons that the U.S. had previously been reluctant to supply. Nazvi Karim, TVB News.
Russian President Vladimir Putin today delivered a defiant State of the Nation speech to top politicians and military leaders just days ahead of the one-year anniversary of Moscow's special military operation in Ukraine. Hours after U.S. President Joe Biden left Kyiv, Putin blamed NATO for starting the war, saying Moscow did everything it could to avoid conflict. Russia invaded Ukraine on February 24th last year, saying it aimed to defeat Nazis in the 4 eastern regions that Moscow claimed to have annexed last year. I am making this address at a time which we all know is a difficult watershed moment for our country, a time of cardinal, irreversible changes around the world, Putin said. We did everything possible, genuinely everything possible, in order to solve this problem by peaceful means. Putin also said Russia was suspending its new role in the New START treaty with the U.S. that limits nuclear arsenals. And back at home, the controversial Chinese biophysicist He Jiankui, who shocked the world in 2018 with experiments that contributed to the first babies with edited genomes, is now a successful applicant under the government's Top Talent Pass scheme. He was jailed for 3 years on the mainland. Secretary for Labor and Welfare Chris Sun said The Director of Immigration will act as the gatekeeper for such applications. Mimo Singhai has more.
In December last year, the government launched the Top Talent Pass scheme to attract top international talent to come to work in Hong Kong. One of the successful applicants is Dr. He Jiankui. The biophysicist confirmed the news by posting on the Chinese messaging app WeChat, saying he's confident in Hong Kong's future. Speaking in Beijing today, he said his application was approved a week after he applied online early this month. He described Hong Kong as liberal, prosperous, and inclusive, revealing that he is in contact with the University of Hong Kong as well as some scientific institutions in relation to gene therapy for rare genetic diseases such as Duchenne muscular dystrophy. Nonetheless, he has not decided on whether to stay in the city for the long term, but promised to follow ethnical rules in his future scientific work. The scientist was sentenced to 3 years in prison and fined 3 million yuan by the Shenzhen Nanshan District People's Court for illegal medical practice after shocking the world with his first gene-edited babies in 2018, a project which helped people with HIV-related fertility problems. At that time, He's experiments led to a series of legal and ethnical controversies. According to the Immigration Department, one eligibility criterion for the Top Talent Pass scheme is not to have a known record of serious crime. Addressing the issue of the eligibility of He, Secretary for Labour and Welfare Chris Soon said applicants are not required to make a declaration about their criminal record. While Soon will not comment on individual cases, he said the Director of Immigration will act as the gatekeeper. Soon said any applications involving false statements will be deemed invalid. He added that even if the applicants have entered Hong Kong, the Immigration Department can conduct another review when it is time for renewal of their visas after 2 years. Mimo Singhai, TVB News.
More than 8,000 applications have so far been approved since the talent scheme was rolled out at the end of last year. A local bioethics expert welcomes academic exchanges, but stressed it should come with boundaries. Sharon Tang reports.
I feel proudest because the Mark thought he lost the hope for the life. But when the baby was born and with this protection, he sent a message, I will work hard, earn money, and take care of his 2 daughters and his wife.
It's almost been 5 years since He Jiankui created the world's first genetically edited babies, Lulu and Nana, drawing controversy over ethical issues. 5 years on, the issue remains controversial among scientists.
What we call germline genome editing is still not ready for putting into human experimentation. So that has not changed. Perhaps what we are now a bit more liberal in the sense that the research in the field in basic science level and initial preliminary research level towards the direction of using germline genome editing for really serious hereditary diseases, that is not been ruled out totally.
The bioethics expert thinks authorities must clarify the definition of having no severe criminal records for applicants of the scheme.
I would be reluctant to say that if anyone who has committed a criminal offense, that he should never be allowed to do anything productive. I think that is claiming too much, right? Whether the past record or the track record of integrity issues will affect the future credibility of whatever he is doing. I think that is the real concern here.
He added academic exchanges across the border will bring good to scientific research, but there should also be a well-established regulation system in place to safeguard academic integrity. Sharon Tang, TVB News.
Tonight, a new revelation about the same brand of surgical lights that fell off the ceiling of an operating room in United Christian Hospital. A patients group found that late last year, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration received a report about a screw missing from a set of surgical lights of the same brand and was at risk of falling down. The report was submitted to the FDA in December 2022. A spokesman for the Society for Community Organization doubts if the hospital authority knew about the matter at the time. He added that if the authority did not know about it, it must review its information collection mechanism. Meanwhile, the Chinese University's medical center found that 2 sets of surgical lights of the same brand in the hospital have potential risks. It has suspended the use of operating rooms equipped with the lights in question. The Education Bureau announced the requirement for secondary school students to complete rapid COVID tests before going to school will be canceled from next month onwards. But the rapid test requirement will stay until March 15th for students in kindergarten, primary, and special schools. Authorities will continue to distribute RAT kits to students with financial needs who still need to complete the daily test. In Japan, thousands of panda fans gathered at Tokyo's Ueno Zoo for one last look at Xiangxiang before she was flown to China today. Xiangxiang, the zoo's star since her birth there in June 2017, was driven by truck to the airport. She will join other pandas at a facility in Sichuan province, close to the original panda habitat. Although Xiangxiang was born and grew up at the Tokyo Zoo, her parents Riri and Xin are on loan from China and must return home. China sends pandas abroad as a sign of goodwill, but maintains ownership over the animals and any cubs they produce. The Hong Kong Palace Museum will unveil a special exhibition featuring ancient Chinese gold artifacts tomorrow. It also marks the first special exhibition curated from the museum's very own permanent collection. Lucky Jackie Lin got a first-hand look at the displays.
Delicately crafted in gold and turquoise inlay, these belt hooks dated back to China's Warring States period over 2,000 years ago, with patterns reminiscent of designs from the Eurasian steppes stretching through Mongolia, Ukraine, and Kazakhstan. This motif of an archer and a galloping horse can be traced back to the Sasanian Empire, founded by the Persians, a decoration that's later spread to the Tang Dynasty and as far afield as Western Europe and Africa. These gold ornaments are among the 220 sets of artifacts displayed in the special exhibition themed Radiance, Ancient Gold from the Hong Kong Palace Museum collection and the Mengdia Xuan collection. It explores the evolution of gold in Chinese history over the past 3,000 years and how gold reflects cultural exchanges between ancient China and neighboring countries.
The nomads play a very important part in helping to transfer some of these techniques and style from west to east to China. Looking at the similarities of the style of the nomads of the Eurasian steppes and Xiongnu of our northern China, you can trace the influence of cross-culture along the Silk Road.
To bring these historical artifacts closer to a younger audience, the museum has recreated digital versions of these ancient ornaments for visitors to wear them virtually. One of the 7 pieces available for try-ons is this golden crown, which is also the first exhibit collected by the Hong Kong Palace Museum. With the border reopening, the Hong Kong Palace Museum has witnessed a surge in visitor numbers, with the number expected to keep rising.
Since Chinese New Year, we got more non-local visitors. 20% from mainland China and other 10% from Asia and there may be Euro-Americans.
The special exhibition will be open to public this Wednesday until late September. Tickets for adults cost $120 each, while concessionary ones are priced at $60. Jackie Lin, TVB News.
That is the news. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.